What up, fam? It is episode 4 of the Thin Walls podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are new here, thank you for coming in and letting your walls down with me. And if you are not new here, thank you so much for being a real one and coming back. I have a lot to go over before the episode starts. Just a lot of announcements and new stuff, new changes. You know, it's obviously a newer podcast, and with that is going to come growing pains. So, yeah, but before we get into all of that, the episode that we get into today, I think is really important. And I bring my friend Lauren in, and she talks about being a woman in the music industry and how we can bring about change and the people who have inspired her to bring about change. And so we get into it, and it gets real, and some cuss words are used. I'll warn you now. So if you've got little ones or, you know, are listening around sensitive ears, yeah, we kind of go there. So anyways, before we get into all of that, like I said, I do have some announcements to make. The first one is I did a poll on Instagram asking y'all what you would think about sharing some news stories in the beginning of each podcast. And I was super excited to see that y'all would think that was dope. So I am going to start that today. The second one is I think I am going to just be uploading every other Tuesday. And the reason is because I'm honestly stressed out doing this podcast. I bit off more than I can chew, and I'll admit it. But it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of effort to line up guests, edit it when it's all said and done, and make it actually sound good. And so I really started this podcast as just a fun hobby for me, and it's turning into more of a stress, and I don't want it to do that because then I'm not going to want to continue. The other big change that I am planning on making is with my guests. So 4 episodes in, we've had pretty serious conversations every single time, and I love doing that, but it also, again, brings about a lot of stress because a lot of the guests that I've either planned to have on or still plan to have on the podcast have gotten really nervous and have had a lot of questions that I don't really know how to answer because I'm still new to this. And I don't blame them because, I mean, it's serious stuff that we're talking about. It's painful a lot of the time. You know, behind the scenes talking to these people, it gets emotional, and you see it, and then you see how nervous they get when the episode comes out, and I just feel kind of guilty, and I'm just keeping it real here. You know, I feel guilty, and I don't want to do that. So I want the more serious conversations to still be had, but at the same time, 1, I want it to stay genuine, and 2, it takes a lot of emotion out of me as well because it just puts a lot on my mind, and then I get kind of sad, and then, you know, it's all kinds of stuff. So I want this to just be more chill. So my plan is to have a lot more family and friends on and just have conversations with them and have fun. So thank you for listening and bearing with me through all of those updates. I know there was a lot, but I'm hoping that all of them combined will just continue to make this show better and better. And it'll just keep growing as I continue to grow and learn. So, yeah. All right, enough with the updates. So I want to go ahead and get into our new segment here and spread some good news. As you may know, it is September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. And our first story actually comes from the FCC. They have decided to finalize a new 3-digit number for the National Suicide Hotline. So instead of dialing the current number, which is 1-800-273-8255, which obviously, I mean, most people can't just remember that as they would the 911 number. So they are changing it to 988. And any individual seeking help can dial it and be connected to the hotline. All telecommunication carriers and voice over IP service providers will be required to implement the new number nationwide by July 16th, 2022. 988 will save lives, helping Americans in crisis connect to counselors trained in suicide prevention, and it's one of the most important things we can do at the FCC. And that comes from the FCC chairman, Ahit Pai. So I am very, very excited about this story. I've actually known about this for a few months, and I think it's a really smart move by the FCC. I know personally when I've been in crisis mode and I've needed help, I was lucky enough to be around people who got me to where I needed to be and were there. But when you're alone, which I've also been alone and been in what I would consider a crisis mode, you never think to, I'm speaking for myself, but I don't think to Google that number. I think personally for me, if there was something more accessible, something I could remember, like 988, I'd be way quicker to go there and dial that and hopefully have help. So I think it's a really smart move, and I think it's definitely good news worth sharing. Our next good news story comes from South Australia, and they have banned single-use plastics. And they have become the first Australian state to introduce laws banning single-use plastics, including cutlery, straws, and stirrers. Environmental campaigners say the law is likely to come into force in early 2021. And they say that it's a historic move that's definitely going to help wildlife in land and seas. So I agree with that, and I think it's a great move. They have had some pushback from the National Retail Association, of course. No surprise there. Apparently they're saying, they have not been given enough time to adjust to the legislation, and they need more guidance. And so I can understand how it's not enough time, but at the same time, it's like, if not now, then when? The legislation also lists items that are under consideration to be added to the ban list, including single-use coffee cups, lids, plastic bowls, plates, food containers, balloon sticks, balloon ties, bags, and plastic-stemmed cotton buds. Exemptions have been put into place for people with disabilities or medical needs for the banned items. Overall, I'm really excited for Southern Australia, and I hope that the rest of the country and honestly the rest of the world, follow suit and does the same. I think that the more that governments show that they care about climate change and are making moves to prevent things that hurt our environment, like single-use plastics, the more that people are going to follow suit and start trying to make the changes themselves as well. Speaking about making change, our last story comes from Reddit, and it says, Old Navy, Target, Warby Parker, and Compass Coffee are paying employees for time off to go vote and work at the polls. Old Navy announced on September 1st that its employees would receive a day worth of pay if they signed up to work at the polls. Target, Warby Parker, and DC-based coffee chain Compass Coffee will also give workers paid time off to serve as election workers. On top of these efforts, high-profile companies like Starbucks, Twitter, PayPal, Walmart, and Uber have said that they plan to give workers time off to vote. Some are offering workers as little as 3 hours of paid leave, while others are giving employees election day off. So those are our good news topics for the week. Hopefully they brought a smile to your face. I know they did mine. I think a lot of these stories that we are not hearing about just get lost in the midst of the 2020 craziness we've all been experiencing. So I'm really hoping that sharing some of these news stories in the beginning of each episode really helps you guys realize that there's other stuff going on in the world and it's not all bad. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into today's episode. Thank you so much, Miss Lauren, for coming on twice to re-record this. I know it was a pain, and you've been so patient with me. So big shout out to you. And without further ado, let's get right into it. I hope you guys enjoy.
Dude, I think it was at this last Grammys that a lot of women sat out.
Yeah.
Because it was, I don't know if it was this year or the previous year, but I think it was the CEO of the Recording Academy said that, because everybody was like, hey, why don't you nominate more women for Grammys? And the CEO of the Recording Academy said, well, women need to step up and do better in the industry. He legit said that. And
who said that?
The CEO of the Recording Academy. Yeah, of the Grammys.
He said that women need to step up?
Yeah, he said something like women need to step up and do better to get the Grammys. And everybody was like,
oh my goodness. We kind of find award shows, Paul especially, he finds award shows just silly.
I think they're silly too.
Yeah.
There's I think everybody, even artists, think it's silly.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like is Fiona Apple, when she got her Grammy, she just gave it away.
Did she really?
Yeah. She just gave it to a fan. She was Because I guess, like, in a way it's nice to be recognized by the Recording Academy, but also I think a lot of people appreciate fan-nominated award shows more so.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, nobody does it to, like, get the appreciation of higher-ups. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree. Of the Grammy nominations in the categories of Record of the Year, Album of the Year, Song of the Year, Best New Artist of the Year, so on and so on, 89% were men and only 10% were women. That's crazy.
It's so wild.
And then obviously the Producer of the Year category counts the lowest percentage of women nominated from 2013 to 2019. Only 2.6% were women.
It makes sense, though, because, like, there's an absence of women in the field in, like, all positions. Like, producing, sound tech, lighting, managing.
Right.
There's just an absence of women in all of it. It's all men.
Yeah.
You'll have a male booking agent, male manager, male bandmates. You know, it's all men.
Yeah.
The Academy's mostly men.
Yeah. So I don't think I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with the name Treeline?
Oh, it's like a poem or like a writing that I haven't really finished yet, but it's I think it's kind of like my upbringing.
Yeah.
A little bit of, like, when you go to the mountains. I think it's also like a Colorado thing. I was just, like, in the mountains, and Treeline is, like, where there's not enough oxygen for life to grow, like, and it I don't know, it kind of it reminded me of my upbringing as far as, like, it was hard. It was just kind of about, like, surviving in that environment. And and I kind of just thought that would be the project.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And how long have you played music for?
Let's see. I started playing guitar when I was, like, 10. My dad got me, like, a Walmart guitar. It was, like, not...
Did you ask for the guitar, or was it just, like, a random gift?
Yeah, I think I was like, oh, I want to play guitar. And he was like, here's a Walmart guitar. And I was like, sick.
Do you remember, like, when you first wanted to learn guitar? Do you remember, did you watch something?
Yeah. Well, like, I grew up on country. The kind of, like, more Americana, like, country music instead of, like, the stadium pop country is kind of like, well. But, yeah, I grew up on, like, both of my parents listened to country. And I think I was just always drawn to music. Like, I always sang in the car when I was a kid. And I would always ask them to turn the radio up, and the radio was always on. And if we were home, like, MTV was always on, or, like, is it CMT?
Country Music Television?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
They have, like, Dog the Bounty Hunter on there now.
Oh, my God.
It's so funny. It's like all those stations are just reality TV now.
Yeah. But we would always have that on, and it would always be playing, like, music videos and music. And I think that's, like... country music is very, like, acoustic guitar based, and I think that's probably where I was first drawn to guitar. And I was, you know, just, like, finding myself, and like everybody does, like, finding who they are outside of their parents when they're younger. And so I started getting into, like, Pierce the Veil and all that fun stuff, and that's, like, I was like, oh, pop music.
Yeah.
But now I think going to studying music more, I learned to appreciate
all types
of music. And, like, there's crappy music in all genres, so it's like just kind of I appreciate the musicianship of all genres, and if it's bad musicianship, then I generally don't like it. But
yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm not a musician. I don't know anything about that stuff, like musicianship and stuff, but since being with Paul, I've been with him for almost 6 years now, and just being around all his friends and stuff, and hearing how they talk and hearing the things they point out in music, I can totally appreciate, like, every type of music now. And he listens to everything, which is super nice.
Yeah.
Because he'll sit there and he'll listen to, like, Ariana Grande with me or, like, SZA with me. And he just, like, dissects it and, like, talks about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, my gosh. Like, I didn't even realize. And now I like this so much more. And he's introduced me to so many bands. So I don't even remember what we were talking about now. Oh, we were talking about you. We were talking about little Lauren. 10-year-old Lauren. So you wanted to learn how to play guitar at 10.
Yeah.
Did you actually, like, stick to it at 10? Did you?
Kinda. I think I would, like, the guitar that my dad got me had, like, a little booklet of, like, self-teaching. So I learned, like, Twinkle Twinkle Little. I think I started getting into it more. And, like, I started learning, like, the basic chords. And then I kind of dropped it. And then I picked it back up again when I was, like, maybe 13-ish or so. And I think it was, like, they were doing lessons at the rec center. And so I went to that. And I was like, yeah, why not? And then I just, like, got super into it again until I was, like, maybe, like, from 13 to 15, I was just, like, really into guitar. Just, like, practicing every day. I, like, loved playing scales.
Aww,
which my guitar
cute.
teacher, I know, my guitar teacher was like, that's weird. I was just, like, in my room, like, playing scales, like, yeah, this is fun. I like this. And he was like, that's kind of weird, though. I usually have to force people to play scales. And then when I was a music teacher, I experienced that where I was like, play your dang scales.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. So you liked playing the scales. Oh.
It was just, like, always, like, a fun thing for me.
Yeah.
I think, too, like, thinking back to it, I feel like the guitar was, like, my first coping mechanism. Because, like, I didn't have healthy ones, or I wasn't taught, like, healthy ones. And so for me, and I, like, still to this day, like, if I'm not feeling great, sometimes I just, like, pick up the guitar and do scales. Because something about, like...
It's therapeutic.
Like, it takes anything off of your mind because you're more, like, using your hands. It's more tactile.
Yeah.
And so, like, it really was just, like, my first coping mechanism. Like, when I first went to college and, you know, I was, like, figuring out what I wanted to do. It's like it's taken me so long to actually pursue music because there's so many different, like, people that are, like, get a real job or, you know, and it's, like, I guess there's validity in, like, yeah, like, you should contribute to society, but it's, like, this is also, like, definitely a part of my purpose, so, like...
This is what I love to do.
Yeah, it took so long for me to be, like, oh, this has some place in my life because it means so much to me at the very least. And I think part of that was, like, my parents and also other people just, like, invalidating that and just being like, oh, well, like, you should, like, maybe get a real job or
go to school for something else.
Yeah. So when I first went to school, I was, like, a psychology major, and then I was, like, a nursing major, and then I finally was like, nah, I just want to study music.
Yeah.
And then I did it, and that was fun.
Do you regret it?
Absolutely not.
So you've been playing music since you were 10, and then when did you start kind of getting serious about it and playing and recording and stuff? And
that wasn't until, like, well, I did my first open mic when I was 19. I was very, very anxious and shy all throughout high school up until, like, I was 19. I, like, would just sing in my room and play guitar in my room. I really didn't like playing in front of people. It was just, like, a social anxiety thing, I think.
Do you, honestly, it sounds like you've kept your music pretty to yourself and pretty private and pretty special.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah, it's, like, something I do for myself, and it wasn't until around the time that I was, like, 19 that I was like, oh, maybe it might be fun to share this with other people. And then I got, like, good feedback, and I realized that was something I wanted to do, so I started doing it more. I was always so afraid to write songs because I'm just such a perfectionist, and I'm so hard on myself that I was like, it doesn't matter, it's gonna be crap.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, like, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give myself a chance, like, be nice to myself. And then I liked it. So
Yeah.
here we are. I'm just having fun.
I love it. I love it. The last time you were here, I cried because you played live, and I was like, you have to keep doing this for forever and ever because it's what you're really good at.
Yeah.
And I think it's what you're meant to do. So, but what are the biggest challenges that you've faced as a woman playing music, or what fears have you?
I think the biggest thing is just the lack of space for women in the industry. You know, I was thinking that there's like so many different ways that this plays out, and it just like all stacks up against you. Like I didn't even realize this, but after like the episode that we recorded, I was like, oh, I totally forgot that like all of the different like ways that I've faced things in like guitar shops.
Oh,
Like that's something I haven't even thought about, and that's like wild to me. Like even to get the tools to like follow my passion, I've faced like weird, creepy stuff. Like, where is it? Old Town Arvada, the pick and parlor. Yeah. I like went in there to look at guitars. I was like, my dad was like, oh, I'll maybe get you a new guitar for your birthday or something. So we went in there to look at guitars, and it was one of the owners, and I was like looking around at guitars, and he was like, oh, do you need some help or whatever? And then he handed me like a half-size guitar that had like different embellishments on it, and he was like, oh, this is cute, you could play this.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, what?
Are you serious?
And it's like, cool. I didn't want a cute guitar. I was like actually looking at guitars, but thanks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I left there and I was like, what the fuck? And then Guitar Center. Oh my god.
I hear bad things about them just all around.
Dude. And at one point I tried to work for them because I had I had a decent base in music.
Yeah.
To sell stuff, and then also I was doing lessons, so at one point I like reached out to them and I was like, hey, maybe I can do lessons through you guys as well. And it was just so wild, like shop full of dudes. At one point I went in for an interview, and like I was like, hey, I'm here for so and so, and the front dude that was like watching the front cases was like, you smell good.
Are you serious?
And I was like, okay. And then I went back for the interview, and it was really weird, and I was like done with the interview, and the store manager like put his hand out and like held my hand while I was like getting up.
Oh my gosh. Like
Yeah.
you needed help up.
Yeah. And
did they ever call you back or anything?
they did. Yeah, they were like ready to give me the job and everything.
But
and I
you
was
just...
no, I was like
Wow, that's so cringy. Come to think of it though, because Paul goes in there a lot, I've never seen a girl work there.
Yeah. That's probably like it's like old creepy dudes. I had a friend that like worked there at one point, and when I was doing this interview, I told him, and he was like, don't do it.
Really?
Yeah, and he was like, it's all like creepy old dudes. Like, I'm telling you, as somebody that cares about you, don't do it.
That's so sad though.
I know. And then I like left, and I was like, you were fucking right.
Dude. I
was like, what is this bullshit?
So much
but like
cringe.
how wild is that like even just to like get the tools, you like face an obstacle.
Like, even
as
to
a
go
woman.
into a store, let alone work for a music store, let alone try to make it big. Like if you just put like step by step by step,
it's an obstacle every way.
Yeah, like there's just like no matter what way you go, it's a maze.
Yeah.
Ugh, that is so cringy.
And then if you think about too, like another way is if you think about the way that like bands are formed, like a lot of female musicians are solo artists with a touring band. That's the standard for female musicians in the industry. Because there's like the way that bands are formed is usually like you have a couple friends, you're all playing music, somebody invites somebody over, you're like, hey, let's jam, and then you start a band. Like, there's that unformal space that, like, bands form in. And that's it. That totally excludes women. Like, I've never been asked to, like, go jam or, like, it's, like, I'm just now starting to get people be like, hey, like, maybe you should, like, put some vocals on. But, like, women are excluded from those spaces. And then even when they get into those spaces, like, on the off chance that, like, a woman is invited to, like, a garage band or they're invited to jam, like, it can get weird. And we can talk about that later, but it's like, it's just an obstacle every step of the way. It's an entire, like, culture
that's been kind of embedded into our minds, I think.
Yeah, it's like it's an overlap of, like, how we generally degrade and devalue women.
And it's so intertwined in everyday things and everything that we do that it just passes us by. And a lot of, like, even me as a woman, I don't notice it until I talk to people like you who are like, hey, this is fucked up. There needs to be more space for this. There needs to be more resources, blah, blah, blah. You know?
I think the thing that kept me from doing any sort of performance or even recording or anything until I was, like, 19-ish was the fact that, like, I had seen people, like, I'd been, like, vaguely made fun of for music stuff and, like, generally, like, degraded, that I was just so afraid, because singing is so vulnerable and playing music is so vulnerable, or, like, and it's really hard when you're in a room full of guys and you're doing something vulnerable and then they want to take the piss out of you. And it's just...
Let alone, like, how vulnerable you must already feel playing live in front of an audience in general. And then it being, like, a room full of men.
Dude, I can't imagine that. I haven't had to play a room full of, like, strange men yet. That'll be something.
Like at a bar or something. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump where Jenny's playing.
I haven't seen Forrest Gump.
You haven't seen
Forrest I'm not recalling it.
That's like my favorite movie. You have to watch that movie. There's a scene where Jenny, you know who Jenny is. Okay. She's playing a show, just playing guitar, and, like, all these guys are, like, trying to take her shoes off because I think she goes out there naked and plays guitar naked and, like, covers her body with the guitar. But it's, like, in a bar, I think, and all these men are, like, grabbing at her and stuff, and, like, Forrest has to go up and save her. And, it's a mess. It's a mess, but she's, like, the same way. She's like, this is the only way that I'm going to make money. This is the only way that I'm going to get attention or whatever it is. And have guys or have people listen to me is by playing naked, I guess, you know? So it's like...
Well, even, like, it's... My Instagram is, like, none of me, really. It's just, like, my art and music. And it's good when that stuff gets attention. But it's like if I posted a bikini pic, like, of course that would get... Like, I'd get more followers and I'd get more likes on that, which is disgusting. And I know that. Like, it's weird to, like, know that you could do that. Like, I could give in to that male desire, not going to. But it's, like, fucked up that it gets to the point where you think you have to. It's like...
You know, I even think about that with this podcast. Is I'm like, maybe if I put makeup on, or maybe if I, like, wore a nice outfit, or did video, and I, like, posted more when I have makeup on and look nice, like, more people would pay attention.
Dude, I thought about that before the live a little bit. I was like, maybe I should look a little bit better. And then I was like, why? Like, I'm going to play music. I don't care how I look, really. You know, I was like, it is being recorded, but I, like, in general, I'm not, like, a look-oriented person.
Right, me neither.
Unless it's, like, artwork. Like, unless it's, like, needed, you know? Unless it's, like, visual artwork. Then I'm oriented. But, like, the fact that I feel like I need to put on a face for somebody is, like, you know? And it's, like, if you look at, like, male guitarists, like, they're not looking hot.
No.
They're not looking
Yeah,
good.
They, like, go out there with like ripped up jeans and like the same shirt they've worn probably their whole tour.
Yeah.
I said tour really weird. Whatever, you know, it's so upsetting.
It's like I just want to play music. I saw,
Right.
who was it? It was Clairo. The other.
I love Clara, dude.
But she like there was like a performance that I saw, and she's like performed a lot with like no makeup and like a messy bun. And I'm like, I am here for it.
Yeah.
Because like show up and play music and like
Nothing else matters.
do your best, like do what feels right for you. Don't feel like you have to be anything. You know.
She's young.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So who are some of the female musicians that you look up to?
Definitely Lights.
Lights is a big one for you?
Yeah, she's pretty huge for me. I started like when I was first learning guitar. It was like 15ish probably, and that was like around the time that she released The Listening, and
I love that album.
yeah, and I like learned all the songs on that album.
Oh.
And yeah, no, it was cool just to like she was a female in the scene.
She was like really kind
killing it.
One of the only ones.
She was
really
one
in
of the only ones, like, you know, Elena Tonra from Daughter. She has a
Okay.
couple different projects, and I love Daughter.
Daughter's also very good.
I love her other project, X-Ray, and I'm just like generally inspired by her because like I've seen her live and she's a little bit shy, and that like makes me feel okay because I'm like, oh, somebody else is also shy and like doesn't like a lot of attention even though they're on a stage. And like she doesn't have a social media, or she does but she never posts, and like just the way that she goes about her music career like really inspires me.
She kind of keeps it private too.
Yeah, I mean, she's just like very like, I'm here to do music, which is like also like what I'm doing. I don't really want to
have it be anything else.
Yeah, she like does it on her terms, which I think is one of the biggest things that I've had to learn. Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth.
Okay.
I love her. I have her memoir in my room. It's in my stack of books.
I love memoirs.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite kind of
It's
book.
called Girl in a Band.
Oh,
Very
okay.
fitting. Yeah.
Girl on a Band?
Girl in a Band.
Girl in a Band.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to read it. I love memoirs. It's
Yeah.
like the only kind of book I read.
Yeah, Sonic Youth is like one of my favorite bands,
Mm-hmm.
and like they paved the way for like the 90s grunge.
Yeah.
And she was a girl in a band. It was like, I don't even know what time frame this is, but probably like the late 80s. And it's like a very different time to be a girl in a band, basically. And I think too, like it being a punk scene, it was probably a little bit better because I think and that's one of the reasons I've always been like drawn to the punk scene, is like they're generally more like, hey, like let's listen to whatever music we want and like fuck the system, and
we're gonna play how we want to play.
yeah, and like if you're a dude looking androgynous, we like it. We like it. We're here for it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about Lynn last time.
Lynn?
Lynn from Paris.
Oh, yeah.
She like came out and was like, hey, I've done everything for Paris and like haven't gotten credit for it. And I don't know if that's, and I didn't look into it and I still need to, but I don't know if that's the record company's fault, because like she did everything for Paris is what she's saying, and she didn't get paid for it or get the recognition. The recognition is like one thing, because some people do, like a lot of artists do work that they don't get recognized for because they don't want to. Like there's a lot of people that like fly under the radar, or like a lot of pop artists write songs and then sell it to another artist without like making it a big deal. But the money part is like
That's a big deal.
is a bigger deal. Like if she wasn't getting producer credits, if she wasn't getting creative director credits, it's like, was that like a pressure from the band? Is that the record label? Yeah, I guess it came out that one of the members had allegations, and she was like, okay, bye.
Thank God.
Yeah. I was like, that's why we need more women in the industry, is to like help. I hope, and I do believe it's just going to get easier and easier.
Yeah.
And we'll just keep moving the needle forward.
How do you think that we can create more space? You think just keep talking about it, or do you think...
Yeah, I think we're starting with, like, allowing... I think in an educational... Honestly, YouTube has been, like, a really big helper, because, like, even for me, like, you can just sit by yourself and you can create that space on your own. Like, a lot of the opportunities for women are still educational and self-created. But I think the more that we talk about it, the more that will empower young girls and women to create those opportunities for themselves and to seek them.
I feel like we have to fight really hard, just as women in general.
Is that, like, if I don't allow myself to take up space, I'm not the only female that wants to not do secretarial work. I'm not the only female that has a passion for music.
No.
That faces all of these obstacles. Like, it's really wild to face an obstacle at every point of your passion. From any direction. And I think teaching, and, like, when I was teaching young girls and just seeing that, like, young girls have a passion for music just the same, and I fight the obstacles that I do for myself, but also that, like, in hope easier for her.
Yeah.
For the young kiddos that I was teaching. Like, it's okay to make mistakes, and, like, you are a good singer, and you just, like, validating her place, you know, because that's a big part of when I was growing up, is just, like, that invalidation of, like,
do something else, or, like...
Yeah, and also, like, the, like, oh, you're a girl that wants to do this. Oh, cute.
Yeah.
I was just, like, taking her seriously and validating her place as somebody who wants to study music. That's it.
That is the biggest thing, like, with kids, just gender roles in general. I know that it's hard, and it's a hard habit to break, and it's a difficult mindset to get out of, but I have to remind myself every day as a parent, like, yeah, Gabe's a boy, but, like, don't put him in the role of being a boy necessarily. You know what I mean? And a lot of my family kind of, because, like, a good example is they want me to cut his hair right now, and I'm like, no. And Paul's like, well, he's been mistaken for a girl 3 times, and my dad, like, laughs at that, and I'm like, I don't care that he was mistaken for a girl. Like, I'm not ready to cut his hair, you know, and
he doesn't care. And also, who cares if he gets called a girl right now because he hasn't figured out his gender identity.
I'm like, who cares? Like, if your kid shows interest in something, never ever discourage them just because it's like
I don't get it.
If Gabe was like, I want to play in dresses and, like, colors and, like, your makeup, and I'd be like, cool, dude, let's do a full face right now, like, what's good, you know? Or if he wanted to play with trucks and cars, whatever, I'd be like, cool, dude, let's you know? It doesn't matter, and it's a hard habit to break, I think,
because it's so internalized.
Yes, exactly. Like I said earlier, it's so embedded in everything that we do. And I catch myself even now. My kid's only 1, or almost 1. It's gonna be 1 in, like, a week, which is crazy. But I catch myself doing it, and I'm like, dang, dude, I should not do that, you know? And it's just crazy how, like, you can believe all this stuff, and for me at least, I'm speaking for myself here, but I obviously believe that you shouldn't have any gender norms and stuff, but I still catch myself using them every day. You know, and it's hard to do, but you gotta do it.
You gotta break it.
Because that's the only way we're gonna pave the way and make more space for female musicians, for example.
The spaces are, you know, not as professional, and it's very much up to, like, the people. It's up to the group, and that definitely leaves room for misconduct. And I think a big part of what's happening now is, like, a lot of people are just not tolerating it anymore, which I get upset, because I'm like, why was it tolerated in the first place? You know, like, but it's like we've normalized the way that, like, men mistreat women, and we've normalized sexual misconduct. And, like, on a different level, in the entertainment industry, pedophilia has been normalized.
Yeah, that, I mean, all that stuff, another podcast for
Yeah.
another day. But
Yeah.
no, like, sidebar real quick, like, that's been insane to watch unfold this year. I mean, the amount of pedophilia that has come to light, I'm like,
just like
scared
all these gross abuses.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm like, why was this normal? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why was it normal that, like, if a girl came over to a band practice, you would, like, try to make a move on her? Why was that tolerated? Or why was it tolerated if you were, like, a rock star dude that you'd have, like, a 16-year-old in your green room? What the fuck?
Why did no one say anything back in 2007, 2006, whatever it was?
Like, there's a whole culture around this that is starting to break and shift, which gives me hope, and people are starting to, we're really, like, weeding out that space of being like, no, we're not tolerating misconduct. Like, I've seen a lot of bands come forward and be like, you know, like, if they have allegations, if somebody has allegations in the band, they're out.
Right. I was doing a lot of research before you got here, and across the board, every article I saw, it had a study pretty much from 2018 to now. The first thing I read, the 72% of female musicians report that they've been discriminated against because of their sex, and 67% of them reported being a victim of sexual harassment. 67%.
Yeah.
That's, ugh. But that was from 2018. Across the board, it's getting better.
Yeah.
At the end of every single one of these articles, it was like, but it's getting better.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about it and speaking about it. And
yeah. So we really can't stop. Is that the other part? We can't stop.
No.
Yeah. Like, if a woman comes out and has allegations against a man, if there was ever anybody that said, oh, they're too sensitive, I would want absolutely nothing to do with that person. Yeah. So when one woman comes out, there's usually more.
Yeah.
Because a man's not going to do that once. Or even if you want to go back, if you want to remove the maleness from it, a person behaves habitually. If a person behaves a certain way, that's just how they behave. So, and then people within the circle within circles, you start seeing like, oh, all of those people have allegations because they hang out together, because like personalities attract. I'm just waiting for
the next one.
Yeah.
It's like we were talking about on the last episode.
Yeah. I can't even listen to some of my favorite bands that are like male led, or, I mean, let's just be real, all men.
Yeah.
You know, because like I'm just waiting for something to come out about them.
Yeah.
And like Brand New, that like gutted me, honestly.
Yeah.
But it made sense when you like look at it. He was a rock star. He had a platform. He had a power over young women. He was a young dude that was just like trying to get it wherever he could, I guess. He had issues with addiction, and that was like one of his addictions. But it's just like, oh yeah, fits the bill. Like how, like,
why are we putting those people in a place where they can hurt others?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you know somebody is sick, or you know somebody has problems, and you sit there and you watch it happen, you are a part of the problem here. That's like you said, it happens,
and we have a culture of compliancy with this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where the biggest thing of, like, people speaking out. That's, like, I can't imagine what the women that speak out go through, because not only, the thing, too, when you get into, like, this set of ways that women face discrimination is like, there's the occasional like, oh, I go to the guitar shop and somebody makes fun of me. Yeah, that hurts my feelings. And then when you get to this side, you're talking about like PTSD and like lifelong trauma. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's different levels to ways that women face discrimination and like obstacles. And you get to this side, and I can't imagine the women, like the strength that they have to come forward.
Yeah.
Because you have to relive the trauma, and you have to be brave enough to stand up against the person. But the thing is like their voices are just like so powerful, whether they know it or not, because they are literally changing the culture. They're changing the world because
they are the reason that this is getting weeded out.
Yeah, exactly. Like them stepping up is why those people have to step down.
Right.
Them stepping up is why we are getting rid of space for
abusers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard, but like really they are changing the world. It's really like it's important work, and the good thing too, like we're starting to see people. I can't imagine when people were first coming out with this stuff. And, like, they would get the, like, oh, I think she's lying. Like,
oh, yeah. I remember that.
Like, now we're in more of a place where we're believing women.
Every
but, like,
time.
At first, I couldn't imagine going through something so traumatic, coming out with it, having to relive that trauma, and then hearing somebody invalidate that and say that I was lying.
People you don't even know. Complete strangers.
Yeah, or people say that you were too sensitive, or that you caused the situation, try to somehow
validate
shift blame or shift the point of the conversation.
It's sad.
And now we're getting to a place where we're believing those women, and we're also creating space for them, which is really important because they deserve it. Like, victims deserve it, and they are what's changing the culture and changing the industry. And more people are being like, hey, if you, like, we aren't going to tolerate abuse, and if allegations come out, we believe you, and that person's gone.
Yeah.
And that's the culture that's going to move women forward.
Absolutely. But, yeah, it's sad. I'm glad that we saved talking about the sexual misconduct for last, because I feel like that is just a whole nother conversation in itself, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we can really... I wanted to focus more on, like, the ways that women face discrimination as a whole, and that's, like, definitely a big way.
Yeah.
But, like, when you get into that, especially as, like, a woman in the industry, like, when you start getting into that, it's really dark. And, like, yeah, and like you said, like, that's trauma. That's, like, lifelong trauma that you start getting into. And so, like, it is a huge part of the way that women face obstacles in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
But I wanted to focus more on all of the ways, like a more encompassing view.
Right.
Because that is one of the ways, but I wanted to also mention, like, oh, yeah, like, the way that you get treated at Guitar Center.
Right.
The way that you get treated at a show. The way that you get treated by the sound guy.
Right. The way that you're not given credit for your music.
Yeah.
The way that you're not able to go and play your music because you're not taken seriously enough.
The way that you don't have the resources or the other musicians to back you, so you do everything. Like, Julian Baker literally, like, I think maybe just this last tour started having, like, help. Before she was doing everything with a loop pedal, all her. Like, literally the female musicians that I know are, like, superstars because they do everything by themselves. Like, even me, like, I'm not a superstar. That's not me trying to be, like, cocky, but, like,
I think you're a superstar.
Thanks. But, like, for my songs, I record.
You write.
I write them. I play the bass. I play the guitar. I sing. I mix. I master. You know, like, where that's what women have been. We've had to create those opportunities. It'll get better, but we have to keep talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
And we need men to
step up
and need to look at themselves too. Like, and it's weird to kind of talk about men in this, but, like, when that's, like, the opposition in proxy, I guess. But I think really the way that men treat women, you know, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You know, I think they need to kind of look at, and it's cultural. It's like we kind of teach men to be monsters, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I think there's, like, some work that men also need to do, obviously, internally, whether you're, you know, like, on different levels depending on the person, but, you know, just looking at how they've contributed or been compliant.
Really look inside of yourself and kind of realize what you're watching pass by.
Yeah.
Or what you're saying, or the jokes you're making.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, this isn't just for women in the music industry, but in general, it's like, in your day-to-day, your coworkers, your mom, your sister, like, it might sound like it gets old or whatever, but it's the truth, and it needs to be heard, and you need to really, like, watch what you say and the jokes that you make, because even if you think, because I'm speaking for myself here, but a lot in my family personally is like, oh, you're overly sensitive, or like, don't take it so serious. And it's
like it is serious.
It is serious, right?
And I think that's like where the internal reflection needs to happen, because it's like, it is serious, because if you're making jokes with your buddy that, like, and this has happened to me before, where like you're in the room with some guys and they may like respect you on the surface, and as soon as you leave the door, they're like, oh, did you see did you see your ass or something like that?
Yeah.
It's that kind of, those are, again, these small obstacles lead to something bigger, and they really add up. And the small degrading stuff, the small aggressions, the small jokes, the small ways that women are devalued add up. And if you devalue a woman in general, and it leads into devaluing her art and her music and her skills, you know, like, so I think that's a part of it,
if
too.
you can't take them serious, I'll just, like, across the board, I'll say, if you can't take a woman seriously just in general,
you need to take a look at yourself.
You need to take a look at yourself. But thank you for coming on again.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe you came here a second time in the snow. Well, it's already gone.
Yeah.
Welcome to Colorado. No, but I mean, it's crappy weather for the first time this year, and you drove here again.
Yeah.
And re-recorded this, and that means the world to me, dude. Like,
you're welcome.
That makes me feel like you believe in what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I do.
And also,
that's why I came back.
Yeah, and also, like, what you're talking about, which is super special, so
thank you.
Okay, we'll end it here. Bye, guys.
Saying thank you at the same time.
Alrighty. Hello, Lauren.
Hi.
So, why don't you let us know what you're playing for us?
My song is called I Promise I'll Try, and my project name is Treeline.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and playing. We've had the hardest time getting this set up. So it's been a while, but we're ready, and whenever you're ready, go for it.
Okay. Shake from every time I've hit the ground. My breathing slow, still it hardly makes a sound. My heart aches until it feels nothing at all. My head spins and the world just keeps on turning. And I let it at my worst. Hope I let the days go by. Nothing else. I promise I'll try. Promise I'll try. Keep fighting the good fight. I promise I'll try. Keep fighting the good fight.
Bye.